Welcome to our third Academy guest speaker series. Today, we are very lucky. We are joined by captain of the New York Red Bulls, Sean Davis. Sean, thank you very much for being with us here today. I know
Yeah, thank you, bro.
we've got a lot of very excited young footballers out there who are, I'm sure, very excited to ask you a bunch of questions today. But just to start, we want to update the fans on how you are, what's going on in your life right now.
Yeah, Connor, thanks for having me, first of all. And, I really appreciate, what all the work that you guys are doing at the club. And I think that this is just another great segment that you guys are putting on. So I appreciate, your work and all the work that's gone into this. To give a little bit of an update on myself, I'm in Jersey City right now. A little bit of a hot spot in New Jersey, so I haven't been able to do much. Tony, our fitness coach, has done a great job of providing us with individualized workouts. So each of us have a program that we've been following. Personally, I like to wake up early in the morning, get my workout done, limit contact, and feel good about the rest of my day. From there, I just like to relax. I have different phone calls, video calls, but for the most part, just trying to make the most of this time right now. It's obviously a complicated time, but I know we're going to get through this, and I'm just excited to be here speaking with the Academy guys. I think it's awesome that we have you interviewing me. It's like a homegrown circle here. But I think we're all really appreciative of, this club and the Academy. And, the Academy has been so important for us. So what better way than to speak to the guys now?
Love it. Yeah, we really appreciate, obviously, you taking the time out of your day. Everyone wants a piece of Sean Davis right now. Get him on call, so we appreciate you taking the time. Us Academy guys got to stick together.
Exactly.
First, before we get into questions, I think we need to talk about the mustache. It's looking good right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know which day of quarantine we're in now, but I've just been letting everything go, and this is my one time to really experiment and see how far I can really push this. And so this is what we're working with at this point. I'm pretty proud of it. I think people are impressed. I'm sure everyone on this video call is very impressed. So we're gonna ride it out. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, I'll get on another call soon, and you'll see the progress.
I love it. Let's give everyone a little bit of background on you personally. I think a lot of people out there know your background, but where you grew up, where you kind of found the love of soccer. Take us a little bit through that.
Sure. Yeah, to give a little bit of background on myself, I grew up down the shore in Homedale, and I grew up playing every rec sport possible. I don't come from a sports family per se, but my parents thought that sports were really important, so I was playing, rec soccer, rec basketball, rec baseball, and the story that I always tell with that is that my mom was my first coach, and she's still learning about the game now, and I doubt she even understands that offside rule, but she was my first coach, and she's always been very supportive, as have both of my parents. And so I'm really grateful for that. And from there, I joined the travel soccer team in second grade, and I had two awesome coaches, Coach Jay and Coach John, who were really influential at the time. And we had a strong team, a great culture in that team, and I kind of just rode that wave. And from there, I eventually had to choose between all the different sports, and I obviously went with soccer because it's what I enjoyed the most. And whether that was with training or games or just hanging out with my friends, it was just an easy decision for me. But it was a decision I had to make because my parents were putting in so much time driving me everywhere, and I think looking back on my youth soccer career, that's something I appreciate the most. That's something that you don't always think of when you're a kid, but there's so much support that you need from coaches to parents to teammates to really get the most out of the entire experience. And so I'm really grateful for my parents and the time that they put in, the drives that we went on together, the hotels we stayed at. Where I am today wouldn't be possible without them, and I think that's what makes this so special for me. Playing for our hometown team is being able to share moments with them. And so they're season ticket holders. Again, for people that don't know, I like to go back to my parents' house the night before the game, even though I have my own place. I like to go home, sleep in the bed I grew up in, spend time with my family. my brother, and that's always been really important for me ever since I started with the first team, and so that's a tradition that I haven't broke so far. This time away from them has been difficult, but it's important to take care of your family, stay in touch with them, and for me especially, they were such a big part of my youth soccer career and my development. But to go back to your original question, I eventually joined Red Bulls Academy when I was in high school. Again, a super important decision for me. And from there, I went to Duke University where I played and graduated. Getting my degree was really important for my family. And on top of that, I was just honest with myself. I don't think I was ready to go pro at a young age. In high school, I don't think I was ready, and college was a really important step for me. So after college, throughout college, I stayed in touch with Red Bull and their academy and their first team, and they were just great. And again, I'll use this word a lot today, but they were very supportive. And from there, I was able to sign a homegrown contract, which was obviously one of the best decisions I could make. And this is now my sixth season with the club. Obviously, I wish we were still playing right now, but I'm just really grateful for my journey and how things played out.
That's awesome. Hopefully, you enlighten your mom on the offsides rule. Is she a pro at that now?
We're still working on it. It's okay. Right now we don't have much soccer to watch, so she might have forgotten a little bit, but we're working on it.
Good. All right, let's get into a couple of questions from some of everyone out there. Let's see. First one, Enrico Paola. What is it like being the first homegrown captain?
Yeah, great question. When I was named captain this year, it was an honor, a privilege. I was really proud. It gave me some time to reflect on my journey so far. It's been like this ever since I was a youth soccer player. And so even when I was a young guy in the Red Bull Academy, I was never the best player by far, or the most talented player, but I did have my ups and downs. And when you think about how long it's taken to get here, the amount of work that's gone into it, I think it makes me even more appreciative of the moment. And at the same time, it was like I had to quickly flip the switch and turn the page and realize, okay, I have a job to do. And while I was really proud, it's like, okay, how can I do the best job I can possibly do as a captain? How can we hit the ground running as a team? How can I get the most out of each guy on the team? What are different things that I have to think about now? And my my dad joke right now is that I'm the captain that's been undefeated the longest in Red Bull history, and I don't know if that's ever going to change. So that's something I'm proud of. I think we had a good start to the season. I think we were all really excited about how things were going, but to be honest, soccer is taking a back seat at this point in time. I think there's still ways that I can improve as a player. I can continue to sharpen up as a player. But right now, I think soccer is the least important thing in my life. Instead, it's more about being safe, keeping the guys informed, right? So now my role as captain has shifted a lot now. Whereas before, I was thinking mostly about the sporting side. How can I help the team on the field? Now it's how am I taking care of the guys off the field? You have to think about the demographic, the different kind of players that we have within the group, and we have international guys, we have younger guys, and so it's important to make sure that through this time of this period of isolation that they're taken care of, that they're comfortable. And so my role has shifted a little bit. I'm kind of getting a different taste of what it's like to be captain, but I am grateful for the guys that came before me, the different captains that I've played under, and I've been able to learn a lot from them over the years, and take the good, take the bad, and see how I can be the best captain I can be. Obviously, I'm still very new to all this, but I'm trying to be very open-minded, trying to learn as much as possible, so that when this season does hopefully get back going again, that we can again, like I said, hit the ground running and have a strong start. So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but the short answer is I'm very proud, very excited, and I just want to do the best job I can possibly do to represent the club that I love.
Yeah, I think obviously people are very excited that you were named captain, but I know that it's a big deal for a homegrown guy to be a captain, but right. I don't think people necessarily realize how big of an achievement that is for you personally, but also for the club as a whole. The New York Red Bulls put a big emphasis on homegrown talent, top to bottom, making sure it's one
Right.
streamlined, unified personality, top to bottom, and throughout the whole
Right.
club. And I think I don't want to I don't want to really downplay how big of an achievement this is, because I want you all out there to know how that this is an incredible achievement, and one that you should be proud of, but really the club as a whole is so proud of.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you saying that. And, like I said, part of me hasn't really digested it still. It's still something that, I think about all the time. And I, again, think about the journey and how many people have helped me and supported me, coaches, teammates, academy coaches. It's unbelievable, honestly. And so many things had to fall into place for this to work out. But, that makes me more grateful about it. And you talked about it. There was a big philosophy switch. And now I think homegrowns are such an important part of our club. Youth development is so important. And you can see that in the minutes that the homegrown players and the local guys put up year in, year out. The club genuinely believes in younger guys. And, I think a big shift happened when Jesse Marsh joined the club. And, I think that he was the perfect coach for all of us. And, I don't think I would be where I am today without the help of Jesse Marsh and Chris Armas and that shift in philosophy. And, I remember thinking back in late 2014, 2015, I was really grateful for Mike Petke because he ultimately gave me that path to the first team. And then once I signed, Jesse took over. And so immediately I'm thinking, where does this leave me at this point? But like I said, that was one of the best things that could have happened to me. And he changed the entire culture of the club for the better. And so I think what you're seeing now is a group that's really together, unified, like you said, a locker room that sticks together through thick and thin. And, young local homegrown players know that they have a chance to break into the first team with the right mentality, with the right attitude. Honestly, that's the most important thing. I think you would agree, Connor. It's not always about the beautiful game and the soccer qualities, but it's really about this concept of showing up every single day, having the right energy, being a good teammate, and ultimately maximizing every single second that we have together. And I think that that's what's allowed us to have success over the years. And that's something that we're going to have to stick to going forward, not only at the first team level, but also at, the academy level. And I think that, it's really exciting for all of us at the first team, staff included, to hear about the academy and how guys are doing and how teams are doing, and watching guys come and train with the USL team and ultimately getting those chances with the first team is really exciting. So, I think that there couldn't be a better time to be at the Red Bulls.
Well put. We're all very proud of you and the academy, and throughout the whole organization. Enrico, great question to kick it off, buddy. Something else. A side note on that. Obviously, in this day and age, you were not able to be together, and you can look around pro sports and see all the good that people are doing with the platform that they have, and not only for the sport but for the community. What kind of things are you doing now? Obviously, you've got a very big platform, being the captain of your hometown team, and so what kind of things are you doing right now for to use your platform for good?
Right. Yeah, that's another great question. And so to answer that, I think right at the beginning of this pandemic, I tried my best to stay informed on what was going on, because again, we have so many different text groups going on, and it's not only important for the players but the staff and the employees. And my main goal at that point was to be as informed as possible, as knowledgeable as possible on what's going on, so that I can keep the team updated, and so that we can all better prepare. And so going back to what my day's like, I enjoy watching the press conferences done by Governor Cuomo in New York and Governor Murphy in New Jersey. And I think that that's been really important for me to better understand how to navigate these times, and to, again, help the guys be as prepared as possible. On top of that, we've done a lot of work together with the club, different donation drives that we've worked on. But something I'm also excited about is today, which will be hitting Instagram later today. So you guys are getting an exclusive look at this. But my girlfriend and I, we went and donated blood in Hoboken. And, it was a very safe process. You have to be very careful these days. We had the masks, gloves, and everything. But, I think it's just always thinking about the community and what you can do to protect those around us. And, eventually we're going to be back at Red Bull Arena, and I can't wait for that. But until then, it's about, trying to do everything you can to protect your loved ones. And so I've been in constant communication with my family, my parents. They're in a older demographic, where they're higher risk. So, again, trying to make sure that they stay home and stay safe is really important. And, on top of that, using social media the right way, Twitter, Instagram, it's, not about being the flashiest or the loudest, but just trying to get the right message across so that you can try to help as many people as possible. So, again, a long-winded answer, but that's kind of been my thought process at this point in time. Again, we're going to look back on this time, and we're going to want to be able to say that we did everything possible to keep those around us safe. And, that's kind of been my mindset.
All the fans out there, I hope that you guys are taking notes, because, if you want an education on how to be a good role model, a good captain for a club, an even better member of the community, take some notes from Sean, and that's how you use your platform for good. All right, let's get back to the questions. Henrik, he wants to know what your reaction was when you were announced captain.
Yeah, another good question. So I remember we were at the arena. It was media day. And for those of you who don't know what that is, we train at the stadium, which is very rare. And then afterwards, all the reporters from, our market come to Red Bull Arena, and they interview the entire team. We each have our chair, and the reporters can go up to any guy they want, ask questions, film us, in preparation for the season, try to get some buzz going. And I remember going to training that morning, wasn't even thinking about it. And then all of a sudden, the cameras, like our pan and them, started circling. And, I knew something was up at that point. And then, one of the assistant coaches was asking where I was, and I was actually getting some treatment done. And so at that point, again, I knew something was up. And then finally, Chris called me over, brought me into his office. He gave me the news. It wasn't an easy decision for them, and I don't blame them at all. We have so many great guys in the locker room. It could have went so many different ways, and I would have supported it any different way. It's not even something that we talked about or thought about, to be honest. And I think that just speaks to the character of the group. It's not as important, who has the armband. It's more important what we can achieve collectively. But when Chris told me again, I was just really proud. I was a little bit shocked, but honored. And quickly I had to flip the switch, because he said, okay, in a couple minutes, you got to address the team. And then after training, you have to address the entire club. And so already the wheels were spinning in my head, and, I had to think again, quickly turn the page and get through the day, so that I could finally digest the information. But, one of the best things again was calling my parents and telling them the news, and, they were really proud. But for me now, it's all about looking forward and trying to ensure that the team is in the best shape possible so that we can be successful. That's going to ultimately be the most important, judgment of all this. So it's all about the next thing. It's all about looking forward. So that's, again, where my mind's at now.
That's awesome. We have a question from Jan. What's the biggest moment in your career so far?
Biggest moment in my career, it's tough. There's been a lot of awesome moments. People talk about the game against Chelsea where Tyler and I were able to score, and that was amazing. But again, that's a friendly. We're playing a Chelsea team that's in preseason, not in great shape. So that's a cool moment for me, but certainly not my favorite. If I had to talk about one moment, my debut is great. My first goal is great, but I think Supporter Shield back in 2018 on the last day of the season, that was such a unbelievable run that we went on to win that. The last few months, I think we pretty much went undefeated, and we needed to stay within reach of Atlanta. And going into that last day of the regular season, it was still undecided, and we had to take care of business at home against Orlando. But we also needed Toronto to do us a favor up in Toronto. And Toronto had a tough season that year, so we weren't sure how that game was going to go. But I just remember playing in that game, and at the same time on the Jumbotron, they had the score and everything of the Toronto game, and so I'm playing in this game, but also looking at the scores around the league, and I saw that Toronto got a nice lead, and then we just needed to take care of business at home, and it was a tense game, but the crowd was great, and then being able to celebrate afterwards with the entire group for everything to come together. It was such a special season. Jesse had left halfway through. Chris took over and did a great job. And so, the team was just awesome that year. And as you know, and, then we went into playoffs with some awesome momentum, and we're able to beat Columbus in a crazy series. So there are a lot of good memories from that year alone. But I think winning Supporter Shield at home was really special.
Yeah, what a night. We don't get many favors from Toronto either, so it was nice that they could give us one.
Yeah.
Next question from Jake. How did you handle school and soccer together?
Yeah, that's another really important question. And so one thing that I always try to stress when I'm talking to younger players is, work hard on the field, put in that time, but also you can't lose sight of your goals, within the classroom, because ultimately for me, I knew I was going to go to college. That was really important for me. And I knew if I could keep working hard in soccer and keep working hard in the classroom, it would open so many more doors for me. And luckily it allowed me to get into a school like Duke, which again was one of the best decisions I could make. But again, I would just say that you have to make sacrifices outside of school and soccer. Those are the two most important things. Those are what's going to allow you to reach the goals that you want. And so I just remember when I was in middle school and high school, I would grind every single day, whether that was with the schoolwork, coming home, getting that done so that, and getting it done the right way, so that way after I could focus solely on soccer. And if I wasn't training with the team, I would work with the ball on my own. But in order to work with the ball, I had to make sure that everything was in order with school. And then when it came down to college recruiting, that gave me a lot of different options. And, if I could even go back in time more, I would try to push myself in school even more. I think that was really important. And it gave me the option to look at a number of different schools, Ivy League, schools like Duke and Stanford, schools in the ACC. That was what was really important for me at the time. And, I have to, again, look back on my journey and be really thankful that my parents pushed me in the classroom and allowed me to, keep my options open in that regard. And I don't think you'll ever regret that, when you look back, because I'm a firm believer that you can work hard with the ball in training, in games, with the academy, but you can also push yourself in school. And when you have the best of both worlds, it, like I said, it'll open a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, I feel like this is a perfect transition, because last week we had Tyler on here, and obviously there you could talk about a variety of different paths you have to pro soccer, but it's almost perfect that I talked to the kids, in an ideal world you may have a Tyler Adams route to going pro, where you're signing at 16 years old and you're coming through and then you're getting shipped off to Europe. But I think it's very important for the kids at home to have to realize that that's not always the route, and oftentimes it's a very rare route. And so that you really have to take your schoolwork seriously, and like you said, give yourself the best options to pave a route for yourself if this is one of your goals to go pro.
For sure. And just to build on that, and maybe you guys touched on this with your chat with Tyler, but even Tyler is a guy that's done well in school. And when we were on the road for different games, he was always getting his schoolwork done on time. And that's what's always impressed me about Tyler. And this is something I'll always go back to. It's all about habits. It's all about discipline. And Tyler certainly has that. And that's, reflected in his work in high school. And now I'm sure he's continuing with his work with Southern New Hampshire. So he's a guy that has, the pedal to the floor at all times. He's always pushing himself, and he proves that you can do both. And, it all comes back to those habits that you can build. And, I think that that's going to be really important for anybody that's trying to reach their goals, whether that's in high school soccer, academy soccer, college soccer, or eventually going pro. You have to have a good foundation. You have to have good habits, and you have to have discipline.
That's awesome. A little insight for the fans out there. In Sean's rookie year, when he'd be on the flight, he was reading a history book about this.
Yeah, true story. I don't know how I did that.
And taking notes all the way. It was very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah, I don't know how I did that, but yeah, just again, I can't stress this enough. I think if you can work hard in school, you're going to be happy with the time that you put in. That's something that's really worthwhile, more worthwhile than any video game um, or anything like that that you could otherwise be spending your time on. I think that it's really worthwhile.
I don't know if you can hear that at home, Sean, but all the parents on here are
I
applauding
hope
you right
so.
now. So good job.
I hope they'll
Uh,
appreciate that.
Absolutely. You got a question from Nick Stokes. What does it feel like going all the way through the academy and then becoming the captain of the first team?
Yeah, again, if and I'm sure some other players have this question. Who's your favorite player? And growing up, my favorite player was Steven Gerrard, and I'm sure some of you have heard me talk about this already. But I love Steven Gerrard because he played for his hometown team. He had a great attitude. He helped the team so much offensively, defensively, and he just had a very contagious attitude. And he led the team the right way. He had great energy all the time. And one of the stories that I love to tell about my career so far is, back in 2016, we were playing LA Galaxy on the road, and unfortunately, our captain at the time, Dax McCarty, had gotten injured. But it opened the door for me. It gave me an opportunity, and so that was actually one of my first big starts, and it was away against a team like LA on national TV. And to be honest, I was so nervous, and I just really wanted the game to go well. But I thought about how hard I had worked up until this point, and luckily the game went really well. I played against Steven Gerrard in the center of the park. I tried to ask for his jersey, but Mike Grella had already asked for it. But then from there, I was able to score my first MLS goal as well. So it was a really special night for me. But to go back to your question, he was a guy I looked up to because he went from the academy all the way to the first team and was a captain, a very successful captain. And so that was always a dream of mine. And so for that to finally come true is awesome, but it comes with a lot of responsibility. And I look at what he was able to accomplish with his team, and that's something similar that I want to look back on and accomplish with our team. And I think that we have all the pieces in place. And I put a lot of pressure on myself, but again, I'm always looking forward. I'm always trying to think, okay, how can I make the most of this opportunity? How can I lead the team the right way? How can I get the most out of each player to ultimately reach our goals? And that's winning MLS Cup, winning US Open Cup, winning another Supporter Shield, and it's going to be challenging, but I want to make sure I do everything possible to give us the best chance.
Well, we all believe that you will, Sean.
Thank you.
We're all very excited about that.
Appreciate it.
PJ, who was the most influential person on your soccer journey?
Yeah, again, I mean, I loved watching professional players. I loved seeing what they do, how they act, how they carry themselves. I think that was really important. And so I talked a little bit about Steven Gerrard, but I think coaches are so important, and it's not an easy job. And looking back, I'm really thankful that I had the coaches I had, like Paul O'Donnell, and I had Simon as a coach. Rob Elliott is the guy who brought me to the club, and so all those guys have been really important in my development as a player. And they don't. It's almost a thankless job at times. It's never easy, but it is really worthwhile and really important. And so I was lucky enough to have the right people around me, not only players, but coaches, like I mentioned, and they've been a huge part of this journey for me.
That's awesome. You heard it from Sean. Thank your coaches, because they're gonna push you on to the next level. All right, next question from Snyder Reyes. He plays as a center defensive mid or a six. His
Awesome.
question to you would be, how would you react if you made a mistake which caused a goal?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I've been on the wrong side of those, different mistakes, own goals, like those things happen, and they're really difficult, and you're never proud of that. But the most important thing, again, is to trust your work, understand how you show up every single day, how much you care about this. And, you just get right back on your feet and you train well the next week, the next training session. And, you hold your head high and you stand tall, because in the most difficult moments, that's, when your character is revealed the most. And so anytime you're going through adversity, there's a huge opportunity for yourself, and for those around you, for you to be able to prove to yourself and those around you that you have what it takes to be a top player. And that's, dealing with setbacks, dealing with adversity. And so if there's ever something like that happens to me, it's always really it makes me hungrier. It makes me more motivated to go out there, again, get back on my feet and show that I have the character to get through those tough moments. And so it's not only on the field, but off the field. If you're not playing games or you're not getting the minutes that you want, it's very challenging, and it's easy to give up. It's much easier to give up, but you're going to get through it, and you want to hold your head high, and you want to be proud of the person that you are. And so it's really important to show up with the right energy, the right attitude, as soon as possible, and show that you can handle what's ever thrown at you.
It's a great message. Your mentality will take you very far. Speaking of which, you have another question. What is your mentality before a game?
Yeah, before a game, and every player has a different approach, right? And so there's some guys that are really comfortable and relaxed, but for me, sometimes I'm even tense, and I'm nervous, and I'm anxious. But again, I try to lead the team in the right way. And earlier in the week, maybe I'm a little more loose, enjoying training a little bit more. But by the time we're, the day before the game, we're doing set pieces. I try to take everything very serious and try to be on top of every single detail. I mean, we do film, we do set pieces. Those are all things that are really important in getting the results on the weekend. So trying to focus in, have that laser focus, be locked in is really important. And then when I get to go home to my family, I think that's really important for me as well. I'm able to relax a little bit before getting a good night's sleep and waking up the next day. And when it comes to game day, going through a mental checklist is really important. Having a to-do list, that's what we call it at the first team. Hopefully you guys are doing something similar, but an individualized to-do list. Okay, what do I need to do on the day to be really successful? Who am I playing against? What are their strengths and weaknesses? What do I have to do for the team that's different than maybe the week before? What are some other things, individual matchups that I need to be thinking about? So that's an individualized, to-do list. But then you have to think about the team. Okay, what are the team goals? What are our tactics on the day? What is the other team looking to do? And how are we going to adjust on the field? Those are all things that I try to think about, that entire day leading up to the game, because that little difference could ultimately lead to a big result for us. So again, appreciating the moment, being locked in, and doing everything possible to get the result. That's what my mentality centers around.
That's awesome, Sean. Having a little technical difficulty. I'm trying to get my camera out.
You're there in spirit. Yeah.
You don't need to see my face. My face isn't the important one. I'll work on that. Yeah. But Eric wants to know, would you major in at Duke University?
Yeah, great question. So Duke's a liberal arts school, so they don't have a business major. They have an econ major, but that's way too difficult for me. So what I ultimately did was a sociology major with an MMS certificate, which is essentially a business, their version of a business major. And so that's what I went into. And then, going forward, I always think about going to business school after I'm done playing. Harvard has a program that they do for athletes in the late summer, fall period. So that's something that I'd love to look into. I'm working with the Players Union to hopefully get a spot there, but I'm always thinking about, how can I take my education further, and, who knows what the future holds, but, I'd love to study for the GMAT and eventually apply for business school. But again, we'll see what that future looks like. All right, Grant, you're in. Taking over.
Hey,
Good.
Just stepping in for Connor. I'm like a
no problem.
Comparison to him. So
there we go.
So a couple of questions for you coming in. So got one from Damien. What inspires you to never give up on the field? What motivates you?
Yeah, I think even when I think about my journey as a younger player, and thinking about the different adversity that I faced, I went to residency, which maybe some of you guys don't know what that is. But before we had such a great academy, residency was when 40 of the best youth soccer players went down to Bradenton, Florida, and lived together, trained together, went to school together. And when I was there, the whole point is, to get the group ready for the Under-17 World Cup. I didn't make the qualifying team for that. I didn't make the World Cup roster, and that was a really difficult period. But to get back to your question, Damien, what inspires me to never give up? I know that I only have one shot at this, and I love soccer, and this is what I'm passionate about. And I just want to leave everything I possibly have, on the field. I want to give it everything I possibly have. I don't want to leave any stone unturned. And, what we like to say at the first team is empty the tank. And so I think, again, we're going to look back on our careers as soccer players, whether that's as a college soccer player, a pro soccer player, a high school soccer player. And we want to be able to say that we did everything possible. We don't want to have any regrets. And so I think whenever I'm going through a challenging moment, a difficult moment, maybe we're losing games, having a difficult run of games or form, I always try to remember that you have to go back to your foundation. You have to go back to your habits, and you have to just chip away at it and get back into your rhythm. And so, again, you want to look back and be able to say you did everything you could. And, that's my mentality, whether that's in a game or training. Think about it. We have 90 minutes of a game. If you're tired, if you're exhausted, you got to push through it. And, you can push yourself more than you know. And I think that was always one of the messages that Jesse Marsch stressed, is that we're capable of way more than we even realize. And so we have to push ourselves beyond that limit to understand that. And so even when you're tired, exhausted, or down in the dumps, you can do more. You can progress more. You can battle through it. And, that's what makes soccer one of the best sports. It's a team sport, and you have guys around you that could help you through difficult moments. So, again, a long-winded answer, but I hope that answers it for you.
Sean, I'm back. Can you hear
You're
me?
back,
all right?
Connor. Yeah, you sound great.
It's difficult times all over the place. So a
Yeah.
little technical difficulties there. Thanks for bearing with me. You have a question from Nelson Fuentes. So basically, along the way, you have to sacrifice a lot as soccer gets more serious. So
For sure.
How did you adapt to not being able to hang out with friends, maybe missing events, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think for me, like I touched upon a little bit earlier, soccer has always been my passion. It's what I've always wanted to do. And I always had goals, whether I was in the academy or college or the professional ranks now. And it's always been about the goals and my priorities. And so even though I would miss out on hanging out with my friends in high school or college, the most important thing for me was improving as a player and growing as a person. And so, despite missing out on different things, even one of the toughest things has been missing out on my sister's wedding. And those are some of the sacrifices that we have to make for our career and for what we love. And, even though that was a really difficult moment, that's just an example of some of the things that, we'll have to sacrifice throughout our careers. And so, again, it's important to keep your eyes on the prize. That's the simplest way I can put it. And, I'll always say this: when I would train on my own, when I was an academy player, I never, finished the workout and thought I shouldn't have done that. I never regretted a workout that I put in, because I always thought that took it up a notch and allowed me to become a better player and ultimately get closer to my goals and my ambitions. And again, we have one shot at this, so I always wanted to give it everything I got, and that's still my mentality today.
You have a question from John Schwartz. What was your reaction to scoring your first goal?
First goal, yeah. So again, that was my first MLS goal was against LA Galaxy back in 2016, and I'm not the biggest goal scorer, but I just remember being, over the moon. It didn't feel real. It was a great moment for me. It was a weight off my shoulders in a big moment. Gave me a lot of confidence, and so it's something I'll always remember. And I think my parents were watching on TV too, so it was again a great moment to share with them.
That's awesome. Let's see. From Anthony Suarez, how hard was your decision to go from Match Fit Academy to the New York Red Bulls?
Yeah, that's another great question, Anthony. And clearly, you've done your homework on my academy journey. And when I was a youth player, I played for a number of different teams and wasn't always winning games. But for me, when I was really young, that wasn't the most important thing. It was developing as a player and getting better each week, each game, each training session. And Eventually I was at match fit, and I needed to make a decision that was best for my development as a player. And I felt like I was ready for that step to go from match fit to Red Bull Academy. And it wasn't easy because you have to leave friends, right? And I'm sure many of the academy guys have had to go through that, where you leave a team that you love, you leave coaches that you love, teammates that you love, but ultimately you have to do what's best for your career and your development. And for me, that was going to Red Bull Academy. And fortunately, I knew a few guys, and the transition wasn't too difficult. But ultimately, it put me in a better soccer environment and allowed me to grow more as a player. And so I think, again, you have to keep your eyes on the prize. You have to stay focused on what's going to help you reach your long-term goals. And for me, that was taking that step from match fit to New York Red Bulls.
Never easy transition, but hopefully a move that worked out for the best.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
You have a question from Mayoa. Over your career, what's the hardest game that you've ever played in?
Yeah, hardest game I've ever played in. That's a tough one. You might remember this one, Connor, but last year we were playing Atlanta at home, and this is the game that sticks out to me. And unfortunately, I think 25 minutes in, Tim Parker got a red card. And so we were down a man playing against Atlanta, luckily at home. But it was a really difficult stretch in the season, and we needed results. And, we had been working really hard in training. We had been really honest with ourselves. We weren't playing as well as we knew we could. And so we needed a good run of games. And Atlanta's been a rival for us ever since they entered the league. They're a talented team, a great team. They have a lot of support. And those games are always really demanding. So to go down a man that early in the game was really challenging, but the boys stuck together. And, I think that was one of the best moments for us last season, was being down a man, sticking together, grinding out a result. And, I remember in the second half, Tom Barlow scored an amazing goal. It started with Sean Nealis, a local guy from Long Island, winning the ball, driving up the field as a center back, giving the ball to Danny Royer, who made an excellent play. And then Tom Barlow, a guy that's had to work really hard for his opportunities, scoring a huge goal for us against Atlanta. And so, again, the energy of the group that day was fantastic. It gave us a lot of momentum, and it was really challenging, probably the hardest game that I've played. But it was a great result for us.
Definitely one of those games that your true colors come out, and
yeah, for sure.
You show the best part of what makes you a real team, and that was definitely a real team.
Yep.
Your next question from Patrick. What's your favorite workout to do during quarantine?
Oh, great question. Let's see, Pat. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to touch a soccer ball too much, just because I live in a city. So I don't have access to fields. That's been difficult. But what I enjoy most, I mentioned it earlier, I like to get up really early and run, beat the crowd, but also I get to enjoy the city in a way that I never have before. And, I run in the morning. It's blackout when I'm running, but eventually that sun does rise. And I think that that's really fun for me. Again, that's best for my mental state during this time. It's not always easy for us. For the most part, I'm in the apartment all day long, but I think to run along the water with views of New York and the sunrise is exciting for me. And, it's the next best thing that I can do when I can't play soccer.
Good old early morning runs.
Yeah.
Let's say Jack Mize. Who's the toughest player that you've ever played against?
Yeah, that's another really difficult moment. For those of you who don't know this, back when I was in the academy in high school, we got to train against the Argentinian national team. They were up here. They had a game at Giant Stadium or MetLife Stadium. I forget what the name of the stadium was at that point, but they were playing the U.S. Men's team, and they needed a team to train against, basically a bunch of cones. And so they called us up, and as an academy player, we got to train against them twice in a week, and we got to play some small-sided against them, opened it up a little bit more. And, that day I got to play against Messi. Di Maria was there, Mascherano. But I just remember training against Messi, and he was obviously unbelievable. And I went in for a tackle one time, and he was so shifty and tricky. He got the ball past me, obviously, but we also bumped knees, and he went down for a little, and I was so scared. You can ask any of the academy coaches. That was one of the scariest moments of my life was Messi down injured for a little bit, but luckily he got up. I obviously apologized, but that was a really cool moment. So, if I had to give one answer, it would be Messi. But if I had to give an answer in terms of who I played against in an actual game, I think one of the guys that sticks out is, I think Josef Martinez and Almiron have been really tough to play against over the years. Obviously now Almiron plays in Newcastle in the EPL, and he's having a lot of success there. But he was a guy that's always really quick, really good with the ball at his feet. He almost ran faster with the ball at his feet than he did without it. And so playing against him in the middle of the park wasn't always easy. I'm not the most athletic guy, so had to be smart. But there's so many great players that are coming into the league now that every game's really exciting and challenging, and so it's fun to watch this league progress.
Were you looking for the nearest exit when Messi went down?
Oh my! I was so scared, and I felt like everyone was looking at me. But like I said, thankfully he was okay, and he was a good sport about it.
I think he probably feels the same. You might have been the toughest person to play against too.
Yeah, I think he says that too.
All right, you got a question from the Red Bulls Academy.
Okay.
Describe your most memorable goal for the academy.
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's a few. I scored a few nice goals in academy, but I would say there were some big goals that I scored, at the in the academy playoffs, especially in one of our last seasons as a team together before we all went off to college, and obviously we wanted to do something special. So the showcase before the academy finals, I think we had a few big games. I forget the teams we played against exactly. I think one team from Chicago, one team from Seattle, but I remember scoring some goals for the academy then, and those were really cool moments because it was kind of our last few games together. And so to go out on a good note, I mean, we didn't win in the academy finals. We got in as, one of the last 8 teams, but to win some big games in the academy playoffs were really fun.
That's awesome. You have another one from the Red Bulls Academy. What are your ultimate goals / achievements in the game?
Yeah,
what would you like to achieve?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Obviously, I want to be the first captain to win silverware for the club in terms of MLS Cup or Open Cup. That would be a dream come true. All the captains before me have been excellent, and they've all tried their best, and it's no easy feat, especially with how the league's progressing every single day. But that would be a dream come true if we could, win a major trophy like that. I think that the club deserves it at this point. I think the guys deserve it. We're putting a lot of good effort in, but so is every other team. Personally, I want to be able to play as many games as possible, whether that's, for Red Bull, for any team. Also getting a national team call up would be a dream come true as well. And that's something that's not going to be easy. We have a lot of young talent in this country, but again, you can never count yourself out. You always got to be your biggest fan, and you always got to push yourself as much as possible. So I would say those are my goals right now.
Love it. What are your key strengths, and what attributes do you want to work on the most? Also from the Red Bull Academy. They're on fire.
Red Bull Academy asking the hard-hitting questions. So key strengths, I would say that there are a lot of the intangibles, things you can't see. And I think it goes back to habits, training habits, showing up every single day with the right attitude. Also being able to connect with guys in the locker room and trying to make sure that they're comfortable, but also putting in the right amount of work to make sure that the team's successful. So managing the locker room is important. But I would say leadership, on game day, leading the guys and, again, assessing what the other team's doing, what we're doing, what we need to improve on, making in-game adjustments. I think that that's really important. And again, trying to get the most out of each guy on game day and ultimately being a winner and trying to lead the team in the right way so that we can get the best results possible. I would say with the ball, talking about soccer itself, I think being an important distributor for the group is one of my strengths. Being a guy that can connect the back four with the attacking guys, getting the ball to important creative players like Kaku and Danny Royer. I think that that's really important and something that I bring to the game. and also on the defensive side of the ball, being there for the back line, covering a lot of ground, making a lot of defensive actions so that we can obviously hopefully keep a shutout. Those are just a couple of things off the top of my head that I could think of.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. We got our last question, Sean, from
Awesome.
Patrick. For aspiring professionals, what advice would you give academy players to get to the first team?
Yeah, I would say this for academy players, that if you think about what your goals are, I'm sure they're very similar to all the guys around you. And, let's say you want to be a first team player. There's so many kids that have that dream, not only within your team, but around the country, around the world. So many players want to be professional athletes, professional soccer players. So what are you going to do that's going to allow you to separate yourself from the pack? How are you going to put in more time? How are you going to make most of that training time? How are you going to be able to improve every single day so that you can become a better player and ultimately separate yourself from the pack? Because the reality is that every player on your team right now cannot go pro. That's just what the stats say. That's what the numbers say. When we even think, Connor, of our academy teams, we're maybe one or two guys on the team that were able to go pro. And so it's not easy, but you don't want to shrink when you think about that. You want to be able to, again, stand tall and attack every single day and have the right habits, have the right mentality. When you're going through adversity, be a guy that the team can look to. And I think that that's ultimately what's going to allow you to grow as a player, as a person, separate yourself from the team, catch the eye of your coaches, of the first team coaches. And, that drive is going to be really important. You never want to be comfortable. You don't want to get complacent. Instead, you want to always think about how you can improve. You want to be honest with yourself and, make sure that when times are tough, you're there for your teammates, you're there for your team. And again, look at that as an opportunity. So I hope that answers your question. There's no secret formula. It's just pure hard work, dedication, putting the time in when others aren't watching. I think that that's really important. And again, it's not about being the flashiest guy on Instagram or this and that. That's not what's going to get you signed for the first team. What's going to get you signed is your training habits every day and your performances in games. And so I would encourage guys to, again, stay focused, understand what your priorities are, and understand that that's what's going to allow you to stay on that path to getting to the first team.
Sean, it's a perfect message to end on there. Thank you so much for joining us today and instilling all your wisdom in our young players here. Do you have any last words for everyone listening?
Yeah. Again, I'd just like to thank the entire Red Bull organization for making the most of this time away from each other. I know, we all miss the game at the first team level, and I'm sure you guys do as well. Thank you to the academy coaches for all the time that you guys are putting in. I know that, like I said, it's a thankless job at times, but you guys are helping us, find the next academy homegrown player that's going to make a difference at the first team level. And, finally, for the first team, for the academy guys, continue to work hard. You guys are in a great spot. You've worked so hard to get to this point. But don't look back. Continue to progress as a player, as a person. And, ultimately, I'm wishing you guys the best and hope that you're in training with the first team sometime soon. But anytime I can help you guys out, I'm more than happy to do so. If you guys have any more questions, comments, make sure you reach out to your academy coaches, and, I'd be more than happy to answer them. So wishing you guys all the best. Connor, thank you for moderating this. And, hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Sean, thank you again. We're so proud of everything you have accomplished. You're wearing
Thank
that
you, bro.
armband.
Appreciate it.
So strong for not only, the first team, Red Bulls too, but also the entire academy. And we couldn't be more proud of who is the face of this team. And, keep going, keep staying strong.
Thank you, bro.
Fans out there, we know it's a tough time, but thank you for participating with us tonight. Thank you for the great questions. We hope you're staying home. We hope you're staying safe and staying healthy, and look forward to seeing you next time on our Academy Guest Speaker Series. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Con. Later,
Thanks,
guys.
Sean. See ya.
See ya.